Thank you very much for coming. We'll do first short meditation, and then we do the refuge. After that, we'll start the presentation. We plan to do this presentation from 6 to 7 minutes or not longer. Then, after that, if there's some time, then maybe I'll just talk about the Mitiba Institute in future plan. That's a project. I'll talk a little bit about that. And each presentation which comes first, I'll offer the kata, and you give the presentation. Once I finish, I think I have to sign this paper. Diploma. 70 topic diploma. I'm just joking. This to carry on this. Okay. Sangin chedan zogin jonan la Chanju Bandu Dani Gyazunji Dangi Junyin Gibe Zanangi Jola Benje Zangi Ruba Ju Sangi Chudan Zogi Jonam Lam Chanju Dani Gyazunji Dangi Junyin Gibe Zanangi Sangyen Ruba Jo. I take refuge to the Buddha, Dham, Santama, and Sangha. Okay. Where's some of it?
She's afraid you were going to call her first.
She's right. So,
I think I might be first.
yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you're first.
Yeah.
Just break the
Yeah. Yeah, please. Brian, can you bring one cup?
Good thing I'm tall enough. Long kata. I'm giving a presentation on the signs of irreversibility of a Bodhisattva Sangha. So, signs of irreversibility can occur on any one of 3 of the 5 paths, the second, third, and fourth. And I'm going to be focusing on the second path, which is usually called path of preparation, or Jorlam in Tibetan, and sometimes it's called the path of application. So there are certain signs that a bodhisattva will attain, will achieve, but I couldn't find anywhere that it said that you would attain all 44 signs, but any one of the 44 signs will definitely occur by the 8th Bodhisattva Bhumi. So that's well into the path of meditation, the 4th path. So we're not getting up into the path of meditation in this presentation, but just in the second of the 5 paths, path of preparation, there's 4 different parts, and the first part is called heat, and the heat is referring to obstacles being burned up. That's why it's being called heat. So within the path of heat, there are 11 signs that a bodhisattva meditator might get, and most of them seemed really logical. They seemed like things that you might have heard about already, different practices or attainments that you're used to hearing about. And when I just looked over them, I felt like they fell neatly into 3 sort of general areas: correct view, ability to meditate, and caring for others, or a caring attitude. So let's see if you agree. Where did that come from? Okay.
This projection. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
Merely imputed.
The first sign that you might receive on the path of preparation in the heat level, I think, has to do with correct view. It is having turned away from grasping at things as true existence, as truly existent. Let me see what it's. The sutra is sort of, or the shastra is sort of cryptic. It says, having turned away from forms and so forth. And this refers to turning away from grasping at the true existence of phenomena. So it's not the direct perception yet, but I think it might mean that you're starting to not believe in them because of your understanding of the way things don't truly exist from your meditation. The second one could be classified in correct view, but it's more specifically about refuge, extinguishing doubt. And it means the doubt about the three jewels as valid objects of refuge. But this understanding, this non-doubt, comes from your experience in meditating on emptiness. So therefore it seems to be connected with correct view. The third sign has a lot to do with being able to meditate, but also being able to practice the Dharma in general, because it's the freedom from those 8 non-freedoms. The four types of rebirth, where the 3 very extreme sufferings where you're too distracted to meditate or hear about the Dharma, and then the long life God existence where you don't feel there's any need to meditate or practice the Dharma, and then 4 sort of situations you could end up in this lifetime where you would still have obstacles to practicing, such as not hearing the Dharma, not being somewhere where you can hear the words of the Buddha, being in a barbaric land where there are no Dharma teachings, having impaired faculties, or holding wrong views. So that all of that counts as one, and I think they all are. Being free of those is what enables you to meditate. The fourth sign seems to have to do with a caring attitude. It is oneself abiding in virtue and placing others in it. So by yourself avoiding the 10 non-virtues and practicing the 10 virtues, you're also inspiring others to do the same. The fifth sign is also, I think, related to a caring attitude. It has to do with generosity. The words are hard for me to understand. Generosity and so forth, possessing the basis of others. But it seems to have to do with the practice of exchanging self with others, which most of you have heard about. Then the sixth one is, again, I think, related to correct view. Being without even a qualm concerning the profound. Qualm meaning some kind of doubt, or to me a qualm is like a yeah but. And you're starting to study and you still haven't got all the kinks worked out and you keep wanting to go, yeah but. So you don't even have a yeah but about the profound. And this also comes about through your meditation on emptiness. The seventh sign is related to having a caring attitude towards others. It is your body, speech, and mind being motivated by love. All of your actions of body, speech, and mind being motivated by thoughts of love. Okay, the eighth one is one of the classical lists of obstacles to meditation, so it makes a lot of sense that it's coming up here on this path, because this is where you're putting together all the conditions to have the direct perception of emptiness on the path of seeing. The eighth sign is being free of these 5 obstructions: desirous aspiration, following desire; malice, or wishing harm towards others; sleep and lethargy, falling asleep and not having energy; excitement and regret, which are agitated states of mind; and doubt, specifically about whether you should keep sitting there doing the practice, whether it's the right path. Then correct view, I think, is number 9 is a correct view sort of sign. Having destroyed all dormant latencies, referring to the kleshas of ignorance and afflicted views, also comes about through meditation on emptiness. Number 10 is mostly related to being able to meditate, but it also comes up in daily life and all sorts of actions of body, speech, and mind. And it is possessing mindfulness and introspection, or mindfulness and alertness, that Drempa and Sheshin, so that we're able to develop our meditative concentration and not being distracted by wrong objects. The 11th one, I think, is the only one in this list that is really sort of a magical, miraculous one, kind of intriguing. Possessing a clean dwelling, bedding, clothes, and so forth. So this is a sign which comes about from consistently pure behavior. So it seems to relate to morality. In a sense, it could be a sign of caring for others. I don't think you can attain this sign simply by doing your laundry. What do you think?
Great.
Thank you.
We have to write. We have to write.
So I think it's like here.
Here. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm going to talk about the three turnings of the wheel of Dharma and how we associate those with the tenet systems, how we associate those tenet systems with the vehicles, and then the main practices of those vehicles. And at the end, I'll point out, I chose this because I had a little confusion about it as we studied it in this class and how I remembered it from other studies. And I did run into a little contradiction that I'll talk about at the end. So the three turnings, the first turning of the wheel of Dharma, the Buddha taught, as you know, the Four Noble Truths, and the emptiness of a self-supporting, substantially existent person. Easy for me to say. And in the second turning, the Buddha expanded on that teaching and taught the Prajnaparamita, the emptiness of true existence. In the third turning, since, as I've heard it said, this upset some minds, we're not so easy to deal with that, total non-existence, totally no true existence, the Buddha taught non-duality through the three natures. It's the emptiness of the object arising separately from the entity of mind, or non-duality, we've been calling it in this class. Now, associated with those three schools arose tenet systems. With the first school, that selflessness of a self-supporting substantial existence of a person, we associate the Vaibhashika and Sautrantika schools, the Great Exposition and Sutra schools, whose tenet expounds that selflessness of a self-supporting substantial existent person. With the second turning, we associate the Madhyamika schools, the Prasangika and Sautrantika schools, who expound the emptiness of true existence. And with the third school, we associate the Chittamatra mind-only school, who expound the non-duality. With each one of these, we associate a vehicle. With the first one, the hearer vehicle, a hearer being a person who hears the Dharma, practices the Dharma, and then proclaims it to others. The main practice of a hearer, from the method side, is the renunciation, and from the wisdom side, the emptiness of self-supporting, substantially existent person. With the second turning, we associate the Bodhisattva path, whose main practice is bodhicitta, the wish to receive and to obtain enlightenment for the benefit of all. And their main practice is the emptiness of true existence. And with the third turning, we associate the solitary realizer vehicle. Solitary realizer being a practitioner that has not had a teacher, does not have a teacher in their last life, although they may have had a teacher in previous lives, or likely had a teacher in previous lives. They say there's two kinds of solitary realizers, what they call a rhinoceros type. Sounds very Buddhist kind of term to pick. Which is someone who extends their practice in the belief that they might lead them to Buddhahood. And then the congregating type, who may have had a teacher earlier in their last life, so are said not to be so solitary. Their main practice of wisdom is non-duality. So we've got these three turnings and these three vehicles. We really have taken the four Buddhist schools, the Vaibhashika, Sartantrika, Chittamatra, and the two Madhyamika schools, and divided them into three. The Hinayana, Vaibhashika, Sartantrika, the Chittamatra, and then the two Madhyamika schools. In reading, looking into this from preparation, I read some commentaries on Jamyang Sheba's root text on tenets. And both in Path of Profound by Jeffrey Hopkins, who has a translation and a commentary by Nyawang Belden, and in Buddhist philosophy by, I think, Daniel Carnes and Greg Preston, who has a comment by Losang Kunchak. Both of them point out that Jamyang Shepa says you can't divide, you shouldn't, it's a mistake to divide the four schools into three, as we have done, and line them up with certain with the vehicles. That they should only be divided into the Hinayana, which are here vehicles, and the Madhyamika, building the Chittamatra school in the Madhyamika tenet system. So there's some controversy, I guess, on how we see those things. Thank you.
We're not filming the presenters, we're just taking
Okay, sure.
the audio.
Okay.
You okay, Mark?
Okay, I'm going to also talk a little bit about tenets, and there was a spot in Chapter 3 that caught my attention. And so the text I was using is the 8 Categories and 70 Topics by Judson Shogi Gyaltsen, translated by Jampa Gendam, and it's the final draft, October of '02. And it's on Chapter 3, paragraphs 3, 4, and 5, page 21 and 22. Okay, first I'll read these paragraphs, and then I'm going to go back and just very briefly discuss something from the tenets, and then try to put my sense to what that means. So paragraph 3 is knower of the bases distant from resultant mother. With regard to through lack of method distant, Volume 1, 10c, the definition of knower of bases distant from the resultant mother is a knower of bases devoid of great compassion and bound by the conception of true existence. It is a knower of bases of the discordant class, it, and a knower of bases of the discordant class are mutually inclusive. And so, skipping 4 and going to 5, 5 is knower of the basis of the discordant class. With regard to the discordant class, the definition of knower of the basis of the discordant class is a knower of basis devoid of special method and wisdom. It is a knower of basis in the continuum of Hinayana superior that is bound by the conception of true existence. Sorry, I'm misreading that. It and a knower of the basis in the continuum of a Hinayana superior that is bound by the conception of true existence are mutually inclusive. And then 4 and 6 are paired together paragraph 4 is knower of the bases close to the resultant mother with regard to through method, not distant. The definition, knower of the bases close to the resultant mother, is an exalted knower in the continuum of a Mahayana superior, abiding in a type of Hinayana realizer, conjoined with great compassion and wisdom, directly realizing emptiness. It and knower of bases, that is, the antidote class, are mutually inclusive, and 6 is knower of the bases of the antidote class. With regard to those of the antidote class, the definition of knower of bases of the antidote class is an exalted wisdom in the continuum of Mahayana superior, abiding in a type of Hinayana realizer that is conjoined with the two, special method and wisdom. It and knower of bases in the continuum of Mahayana superior are mutually inclusive. So then I went back to the tenets because I kind of remembered what the Hinayana was and the Bodhisattva path, and I just wanted to get more clear on that because I didn't feel really solid about it. And so I was using the text we used in the tenets class, Presentation of Tenets by Venerable Manjushri Choki Gyaltsen, translated by Venerable Sangye Kadro, edited by Jampa Gedum in 1998. And so this was, at the end of it, the Prasangika Madhyamika's presentation of passing grounds. I pulled out 2 paragraphs from that, and I think this relates with hearers and solitary realizers versus the bodhisattvas. There is no difference in terms of superiority among the views that are the objects of meditation of persons of the 3 vehicles, because all 3 are alike in taking the main objects of meditation, the subtle selflessness of persons and the subtle selflessness of phenomena. But in the second paragraph, there are differences with regard to their main objects of abandonment, because hearers and solitary realizers take as their main objects of abandonment the 2 graspings together with their seeds, and bodhisattvas take as the main objects of abandonment the propensities of self-grasping. So what I take this to mean is that hearers and solitary realizers are working on negating the self, and the 2 aspects of the self, the gross and the subtle aspects of self, yet they still have a belief in a phenomena outside themselves, and that's actually creating a hindrance on their path. Whereas the bodhisattvas take everything as an object of abandonment and work on self-grasping, that grasping as to the true nature, inherent existence of reality. So then going back and looking at 3 and 5, 3 is the knower of the bases distant from the resultant mother, and 5, knower of the bases, that is of the discordant class. I think they're talking about Hinayana, the hearers and solitary realizers, who are negating self but still are grasping to true reality, versus, or ultimate existence, ultimate nature. I'm not saying that right. Getting the syntax wrong. Dig myself in deep. And then number 4 and number 6, knower of the bases close to the resultant mother and knower of the bases of the antidote class. It says for both of these that they are Hinayana realizers, but they are, in the first one, it's conjoined with great compassion and wisdom, directly realizing emptiness. So, and then in the second one, it's combined with 2, special method and wisdom. And I think here the wisdom is that phenomena are not inherently existent, and that we need to stop grasping at everything.
Great, thank you.
So I'm not as tall as Venerable Dreaming. All right. Thank you. Okay. So for my presentation, I decided to do a review of the text that we've been studying, the 8 categories and 70 topics. And the reason I decided to do this is because when we started this class, I'd never heard of the text by Jetsun Chukyi Gyaltsen, which is a commentary on Abhisamalamkara, or Ornament for Clear Realizations. And so my hope in doing a review, a very brief review of the text, is to create some imprints so in the future I'll be able to study the text in more depth and detail. So as all of you know from the class, the text is divided into 8 categories, and the first 3 are explaining the three knowers, and then the next four are explaining the trainings that one needs to progress upon in order to attain the qualities of the three knowers. And then the final category is the actual result of full enlightenment. And then when we look at the first three chapters, the first one being the exalted knower of all aspects, and the second, the knower of paths, and then the third, the knower of bases, these can be compared with the Lam Rim and related to the Lam Rim. The first chapter, or actually the third chapter, the knower of bases, relates to those of the middling capacity in the Lam Rim. And then the second chapter, the knower of paths, relates to those of the great capacity from the Lam Rim. And then the first chapter, the knower of all aspects, relates to the final result of Buddhahood, which one achieves through progressing along the Bodhisattva vehicle. Now, the exalted knower of all aspects describes an exalted knower in the continuum of a Buddha who realizes all aspects of all phenomena, all objects of knowledge. And through this, they're able to benefit sentient beings through turning the wheel of Dharma and through working for the benefit of sentient beings. And this chapter is presented first in order to inspire trainees to want to engage on the path to progress to Buddhahood. And so it presents the qualities and the result that one achieves when they've progressed along the path, such as omniscience, which enables one to benefit sentient beings. And then, having been inspired to reach the state of Buddhahood, then the next category is presented, which is the knower of paths. And the knower of paths exists in basically from Mahayana bodhisattvas on the path of seeing through to Buddhahood. And in order for a bodhisattva to benefit sentient beings, they need to know all three vehicles in order to guide disciples of various capacities through a path to either nirvana or full enlightenment. And so the knower of paths presents the hearer vehicle, the solitary realizer vehicle, and the bodhisattva vehicle, and then the wisdoms that must be achieved for each of those. So the wisdom realizing the selflessness of persons, the wisdom realizing non-duality, and the wisdom realizing the emptiness of true existence. And then in order to develop these wisdoms, as well as be a knower of all three paths, one must have the basis for this. So then that's presented in Chapter 3, which is the knower of basis. And that chapter presents the Four Noble Truths and the 16 attributes. And the knower of basis can be found in all Arya beings who have realized at least an emptiness, or actually the selflessness of persons. And so all Arya beings would be considered a knower of basis. So then, having presented the three types of knowers, then the next four chapters explain the trainings that one needs to cultivate. So the fourth chapter is the complete training in aspects. And the aspects refers to the 173 aspects that one needs to cultivate in order to achieve the three knowers and in order to achieve Buddhahood. And these 173 aspects can be divided into the three knowers. There's 27 aspects that relate to the knower of basis, and then 36 that relate to the knower of paths, and 110 that relate to the knower of all aspects. And then the 110 can be divided into aspects that relate or that are similar to those knowledges held by hearers, and then some by bodhisattvas, and some just by Buddhas. These 173 aspects are cultivated at this first training through gaining a knowledge of them, and it's through a bodhisattva's yoga of the union of calm abiding and special insight that they meditate on these topics. And then the following trainings, the three trainings, are the way in which a disciple will then develop this knowledge of the 173 aspects further. So the fifth chapter is peak training, and the boundaries for this are from the Mahayana path of preparation through to the end of a continuum of a sentient being. And at this point, again, the Bodhisattva is using the union of calm abiding and special insight to meditate on all 173 aspects in a single session. And then the sixth category is presented, which is serial training, which means that the Bodhisattva, again, is using the union of calm abiding and special insight to meditate on all of the aspects but to do it in a very particular order. And then at this point, they're practicing to be able to meditate on all of these aspects within the shortest possible moment. And so then that leads to the 7th category, which is momentary training, which refers to the very end of the continuum of a sentient being, where they're able to meditate on all 173 aspects in the shortest instant using a union of calm abiding and special insight. And then this is the direct cause to be able to realize all phenomena directly and simultaneously. And so then the very next moment is the state of full enlightenment or Buddhahood. And so the 8th category is the resultant truth body of a Buddha, which is the result that through having cultivated the 173 aspects of the 3 knowers. And then in the 8th chapter, it lays out the four bodies of a Buddha: the wisdom, truth body, the nature body, the emanation body, and the enjoyment body.
Great.
So I have slides for this presentation on that disc there. I was so grateful to find out that Rinpoche was a techie that I had to reward you by providing my own slides. Now, as someone interested in the people involved, I always enjoy when people get up here and talk about the beings, the special beings that have brought us many of these teachings. So my presentation is about the origins of our Shastras and the beings that were involved in bringing them to us. It's really large. Next, please. So, of course, this is where all the Shastras begin. Our founder, our teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Next slide. Shakyamuni taught for a long time. He was actually on earth teaching for 45 years after his enlightenment. In that time, there were a large number of teachings. Only some of these teachings were actually given as formal discourses to people. And many of the teachings during those 45 years were times when he sat down with people in question and answer sessions and answered the questions that the people had. So you can imagine after 45 years of that, there were a lot of teachings on various different topics, all kind of jumbled together. Now, after the Buddha passed away, they got together and they took those teachings and divided them into 3 large classifications. And they did that at a council, a couple of councils after the Buddha's passing. At that time, there were several beings like Ananda and Kashvaya who could actually recite all the teachings that they heard from memory. And so each of those beings recited those teachings, and they were collected into baskets of different kinds of topics. After each one of these texts was translated, they also put an homage at the beginning of each one that was different according to which of the 3 baskets that it was in. Next slide. So the 3 baskets they divided all the teachings into are called the Vinaya, or Pitakas. Pitaka means basket. The Vinaya Pitaka, the Sutra Pitaka, and the Abhidharma Pitaka. Now, the Vinaya Pitaka basically contains rules or teachings that talk about the conduct of beings. Primarily monks and nuns, because a lot of the rules of conduct are for people that have taken higher vows. So it explains, for example, why monks and nuns have to act a certain way, why the robes of monks and nuns don't have sleeves. There are many different reasons for all these things that are buried deep in karma. And because only the Buddha understands all the details of karma, not even the bodhisattvas, the homage at the beginning of Vinaya texts, only the Buddha is praised. Now, in sutra texts, they basically are teachings for the bodhisattvas, and so they teach them ways of meditating and ways of following the path. And because these are meant for bodhisattvas, the homage of these texts pays homage both to the Buddhas and the bodhisattvas. And then we come to the Abhidharma teachings, which are wisdom teachings, basically about emptiness. And they talk about things which can be known, objects which can be known, objects of knowing, and all sorts of philosophical details of that. The person that knows best about wisdom is Noble Manjushri. And so the homage of all of the Abhidharma texts is a praise to Manjushri. Next slide. Now, if you look at the Tripitaka, it basically is a huge volume of work. There are 50 hardbound volumes that make up the Tripitaka offered by the Pali Text Society, and that's not every single text, just many of them. It's 12,000 pages long. It takes up 5 linear feet of shelf space. So you can imagine that's an awful lot of material. Now, due to this volume of information, you can imagine that people have questions about Buddhist teachings, can't exactly go to these 5 linear feet of volumes and go flipping through them to find their answer. And there's no index in there telling you how to find them, and there's certainly no Yahoo search engine. So basically, enlightened beings came along afterwards and recognized that this was going to be an obstruction to your average Buddhist. So what they did is they took many of these teachings and after studying the volume of works, decided to collect certain portions of them into teachings organized around certain themes. And then because they're special individuals, they had a strong insight into the truth of these different topics, and they supported all of their arguments with copious scriptural references, because this is not meant to be their individual opinions, it's meant to be their explanations of the Buddha's opinions. So it turns out that these commentaries that have reorganized this information are known as the Shastras. And it turns out that 2 remarkable brothers from India in the 4th century are responsible for very many of these Shastras. The story of these 2 Indian brothers actually begins with their mother. Their mother was actually born as a monk at one point, and was following the teachings of Avalokiteshvara very closely, and had a great mastery over all of the 3 baskets of teachings. He was able to commune directly with Avalokiteshvara and receive teachings. So it was a very advanced being. Unfortunately, this monk had a problem one day when debating a fellow monk, and decided to demean this fellow monk by describing his intelligence as that of a woman. Now, in ancient times, of course, this was a slight, and Avalokiteshvara predicted that a person of his advanced nature should be beyond that, and because of the karma of this, he would be born a number of lifetimes as a woman just to understand the injustice. Next slide. Now, as you can see, after 2,000 years, we may not have actually learned a lot, but we probably still suffer from these prejudices today. So, sometime in the 4th century, this monk, due to this karma, was reborn as a woman whose name was Prakashashila, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Now, Prakashashila had many of the characteristics of the monk from her former life, in that she was very closely connected with Avalokiteshvara. She could remember many of her former lives, and in fact, she could understand scriptures immediately upon hearing them. So she was a great being. This is a picture of a Brahmin woman from about that period. Now, she was actually born as a Brahmin, but she was very much more advanced than that, having been a monk in previous lives. And so actually, she was very interested in Buddhist teachings, and she was very dismayed at the time because various Hindu teachings had been gaining a lot of ground at the time. And she was upset about this, but she couldn't actually go into the debating grounds and defend Buddhist teachings for herself because she was a woman. So she vowed to give birth to a son who could do this for her. Now, she was a Brahmin, but she married someone who was a non-Brahmin. In fact, a Kshatriya, Kshatriya. Later on, she married a Brahmin and had some more sons. But the person she married first was actually of a kind of a warrior caste. And I think possibly her thinking was that she didn't want her son to become influenced by the Brahmins so strongly that he wouldn't follow natural impulses to go in the way of the Dharma. Now, her first son, Asanga, wasn't a Brahmin, and he was the oldest of her sons. And normally, the oldest of her sons would be expected to follow on in their father's footsteps and become a warrior caste person. But his mother told him that he was destined for something else and encouraged him to become a Sangha member instead. As a Sangha member, he spent 5 years serving various teachers and studying the texts, and then took the robes of a Mahashiksha monk, and then went about going and taking many classes in advanced meditation. At the point where he had surpassed the levels of his teacher, he decided it was time to go off into meditation. He went off into a cave in the mountains to do retreat. Now, off in the mountains, he basically meditated upon Maitreya, who he decided was the person that he needed to get, whose teachings he needed to receive in order to progress. Now, he meditated very hard, and for 3 years, he meditated day and night very arduously about this. And still, he had absolutely no revelations, no indications that anything was progressing. So he got very disheartened about this and decided that he was going to leave. So as he started to walk outside the cave, he saw a place where birds had been nesting. And over many hundreds of years, the birds nested in the same place, and the soft touch of their wings over time had worn down the hard rock. And he thought, if a bird's wing, can wear down a hard rock like that, then certainly, someone like I should be able to sit here and meditate, and understand this. So he went back to his cave. So after another 3 years of meditating, again with no signs, he became disheartened again. And this time, as he was leaving his cave, he found a place where water had been dripping down. And the water had been dripping down for hundreds and hundreds of years, maybe thousands. And again, it formed an indentation in the rock. And again, he thought, if a soft water droplet can do this, then who am I to give up after 3 years? So again, he went back to his cave and meditated. Now, after 3 more years, he decided that he was disheartened again and began to leave it one more time. This time he saw an old man trying to turn bars of steel into needles by polishing them with cloths. I don't know if this is the preferred method of making needles in that time, but certainly it convinced him that he should go back and do some more meditation. So back to the cave he went. Now, those of you that know the story of Asanga may know what's coming next. Now, I couldn't bear to show you a picture of a wounded dog, so I found a picture of Marmaduke here, who's only wounded in pride. But in his 12th year, he finally got disheartened and left his cave, and he was making his way towards the city of Akintia. And then he saw on the side of the road a dog that was suffering and dying, infested with wounds and maggots and all sorts of things. And a great compassion welled up within him. And he really wanted to do something for this creature. He couldn't go on without doing something to save him. And he knew that he had to remove all the worms from the dog, or he was eventually going to die. But he didn't want the worms to die themselves. So he actually cut a piece of his flesh out of his body and laid it down. And he didn't want to crush the worms by touching them with his fingers, so he laid down on the ground and used his tongue to pick up the worms off of the dog and put them on this flesh that he cut from his own body. Now, obviously that took a great deal of compassion. And the moment he actually did this, the dog vanished, and Maitreya stood in his place, resplendent in a halo of divine graces. So Asanga couldn't contain himself. He was weeping, crying, and couldn't believe it. And he basically asked Maitreya, why now when I'm in so much pain I can't even think about you? Have you come to visit me when before, after all these prayers, I couldn't see you? And Maitreya explained that he was there all the time next to Asanga, but basically he was blinded to seeing him because his compassion was clouding his vision. And then once he developed a strong compassion, his vision cleared and all of a sudden he could see him. Next slide. So Asanga didn't actually believe this, so Maitreya said, well, why don't you put me on your back and carry me down to town? So Asanga took Maitreya on his back and carried him it was pretty heavy, I guess, into the town. And when he went into the town, all these people looked at him like he was crazy because he wasn't carrying anything, and they couldn't see anything on his back. He was just lumbering along with this load, and they thought he was nuts. Finally, the only person in town that saw anything was an old woman who saw him going by and asked him why he was carrying a wounded dog on his back. But obviously nobody had the pure karma to see Maitreya in his form. So Maitreya asked what a Sangha's true desire was, and he said that his true desire was to spread the Mahayana. Thereupon Maitreya took him off to Tushita, Maitreya's celestial abode, and gave him a whole bunch of teachings. And among the teachings that he gave him there were 5 precious works by Maitreya, which were his own shastras, commentaries that he composed himself about Buddhist teachings. Now, when he returned, only 6 months had passed for him receiving teachings in Tushita heaven, but on earth, 25 years had passed away. So many times you'll see pictures of a Sangha either as a very old monk or as a very young monk. The young monk is a representation of him coming back from Tushita when everybody else was old. So the shastras that Maitreya gave to a Sangha that he brought back are very precious. And they include the Mahayana Sutra Lamkara, which is the ornament of Mahayana discourses, the Abhisamaya Alamkara, the ornament of clear realization, which is what we're studying now, the Madhyanta Vibhagata, distinguishing the middle from the extremes, the Dharmata Vibhagana, distinguishing Dharma and Dharmata, and the Uttara Tantra Shastra, which is about the Uttara Tantras. Now, he wrote down all these works, and he was basically a Yogacarya practitioner. But at the end, including a work called the Yogacarya Bhumi, which was an exposition of the Yogacarya path, he wrote some expositions which many people believe were Madhyamika in view. So he really was more than just a Hinayana practitioner. Next slide. Yes. We're almost done. Then the next brother to come along was Vasubandhu. He was born from a Brahmin, who was the person that he married next. And unlike his father, he was raised as a Brahmin and took many Brahmin teachings and formulated a bunch of texts about the Yogacara. Next. Now, when he received his ordination, finally, he was an expert on the 3 baskets and very good at debating. But he didn't follow in the Sangha's path of solitary meditation. So in fact, he came back to Kashmir and did a bunch of studying in basically learned things like Mahayana schools and esoteric knowledge, and a lot of Hindu philosophy. Next. The only problem was that after he read his brother's Yogacarya Bhumi, he read his brother's Yogacarya Bhumi text, and he thought the Mahayana texts were not correct. He doubted the widespread belief that a Sangha had received instructions from Maitreya. And in fact, he finally exclaimed, "Alas, a Sangha meditated for 12 years in the forest, but instead of attaining success, he composed a work to be fit to be an elephant's load." That's pretty bad. Now, after the last story, we're all expecting him to be born as a dung beetle, right? But no, a Sangha came to his rescue and said it's time to convert him. So a Sangha sent 2 monks to talk to him, two carefully selected monks with carefully selected sutras. They went to talk to Vasubandhu, and after reciting the 2 sutras, Vasubandhu was completely overwhelmed and his mind completely changed. Next slide. At this point, he got together with a Sangha, took many teachings from him, converted himself fully to the Mahayana path, and actually wrote down a number of Sangha's works over the coming years. Next slide. Eventually, he became the preceptor of Nalanda and actually composed a number of works on his own, more than 50 commentaries on the Mahayana. And he actually, his Shastra on the Abhidharma, called the Abhidharma Kosha, is something that we've studied before, and it's one of the primary texts of the people in the studying Hinayana schools. Yes. Next slide. And that's the end.
Thank you.
Rinpoche, I'd just like to ask you to come back and teach us again, please.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Please, Rinpoche,
sure,
come
sure,
back
sure.
and teach us.
Sure.
Rinpoche, please come back and teach us again. Okay, taking all your time, Mark. You don't have to go.
As I was sort of reviewing some of the works from the master's program in Italy, you can stop that. I came across a part in chapter 4 of the book that we've been studying, where they started to talk about, chapter 4 is the 37 aspects of the exalted knower similar to those of the hearer, complete training and aspects. And it started to talk about the 4 close placements of mindfulness and how those related to the 4 Arya truths. And that interested me, so here we go. The 4 objects of observation, or the 4 close placements of mindfulness, are on your body, your feelings, your mind, and phenomena. Placements of mindfulness on your body relate to the first Arya truth of suffering, in that the more you meditate on the suffering of your body, the more aware you are of the pervasive compounded suffering, and this will generate the wish to be free of that suffering. We have, by their commentaries, we have 3 different bodies. The outer body of forms that are not bases of the sense powers, sounds, sights. There's the inner body of the 5 sense powers, the eye sense power, the smell sense power, nose sense power, I don't know what it's called. And then the body that is both, which are the sense organs themselves. The second placement of mindfulness on the feelings is connected to the second Arya truth, the truth of origins, in that our experience of feelings induces cravings, desirous cravings. And the longer you meditate on feelings and how they create those cravings, it will generate the wish to abandon cravings and desire itself. And in fact, hopefully will abandon the feelings themselves as the source of enjoyment. As you know, there are 3 feelings: there's pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. The third, the placement of close placement of mindfulness, the placement on the mind, which is connected to the third Arya truth of cessation. In that, realization of impermanence of the self and the mind will induce the wish to attain cessation, that is separation. You can meditate on that, and it'll make more sense. There are the minds that they are referring to when they say this are the primary minds, the minds of the eye, ear, touch, smell, taste, and the mental consciousness. The fourth placement, the close placement of mindfulness on phenomena, is related to the fourth Arya truth, the truth of the path. The realization that comes from this mindfulness, this meditation, is the realization that afflicted phenomena and attachments to them are to be abandoned. And the phenomena include mental factors that are not feelings, the non-associated compositional factors. You want a list? We have a list. Very quickly, because I was never sure what they were. So there are the non-associated compositional factors: acquisition, absorption without discrimination, absorption of cessation, one having no discrimination, life faculty, similarity of type. You'll get a copy later. Birth, aging, duration, impermanence, group of stems, I don't understand that one, group of word, group of letters, state of an ordinary being, continuity, distinction, relatedness, rapidity, order, time, area, number, and collection. The other phenomena to be meditated upon are the unproduced phenomena. Manners of meditation, there are 2. There's the common, which are investigating the general and specific qualities of your body, feelings, and phenomena. Uncommon manners of meditation. Hearer and solitary realizers meditate on their body, Bodhisattvas meditate on the bodies of themselves and others. Hearers and solitary realizers mentally engage in impermanence. Bodhisattvas mentally engage in the emptiness of true existence. Hearers and solitary realizers meditate to be free of the contaminated body. Bodhisattvas meditate in order to reach complete enlightenment. And then, why meditate at all? Because, as they say, the contaminated body is suffering. Feelings are the cause of craving for pleasant experience and separation from the unpleasant experiences. Realizing that the mind is impermanent, you will actualize cessation, and understanding that afflicted phenomena are incompatible and that pure phenomena are the antidote. And I'm done. Thank you.
Oops.
And I'm the cause of. I wonder what kind of karma that is.
Let's make deal. That karma. If you do well, that's karma's paper.
Oh, this is it. I'm finished. It's interesting to look at that. The title of my presentation is The Knower of Basis, and the foundational practices that actually are a part of that whole segment. And the reason why it caught my attention was that in India recently, during the Lamrim teachings of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, he continually mentioned the importance of the Four Noble Truths and it being the very basis of Buddhist practice. And this is the fundamental practice of the knower of basis, the ever-deepening practice of the Four Noble Truths. So I've heard comments recently, and in the past, people would say, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do with this material. I can't integrate it. And this is way over my head. And what I've come to realize is that the Four Noble Truths is the starting place, again and again and again, so that when we forget that, and we do feel overwhelmed and we can't integrate the material, we go back to the beginning. And if we do this again and again and again and again, each time there is a different level of integration, mentally, physically, spiritually. And the knower of basis is also called the knower of all for this reason, is that the Four Noble Truths, the study, reflection, the meditation on it, one does deepen in the understanding of all these aspects. So it's the very foundational practice of all of this. And interestingly, the process of training in the knower of basis actually leads to the direct realization of emptiness. which has 16 moments that are related to the Four Noble Truths, 16 aspects that someone recently, just a few moments, talked about. I don't have a slideshow. This is kind of like the old-fashioned way. Okay.
Old-fashioned PowerPoint.
Exactly. In fact, I had a pointer recently my father gave me, and I actually donated it to Goodwill, so I don't even have a pointer anymore. So here are the 16 aspects, and the ones in black are listed by Jeffrey Hopkins, and the ones in orange are from Rinpoche's book, Practicing the Path. So all these 16 aspects are the objects of intense meditation, again and again and again and again. And what it leads to eventually that sweet moment where we have that taste of emptiness directly. And in that moment, there's like 16 little digits that are very related to the Four Noble Truths, the 16 aspects. Now, the arrow going up here, the arrow going up here, we begin at the bottom with true sufferings, because that's the very beginning. Now, in this one moment, all this is happening. So, the object and the subject is knowledge and forbearance. The forbearance is, let's see, the forbearance is like this upward moving energy where there's a continual letting go of afflictions, and simultaneously there's this path of release with it, where the yogi is actually aware. So there's this movement, this letting go, oh, I'm aware. This movement, letting go, I'm aware. And on, 16 of these in this one moment of the direct realization of emptiness. And I imagine Rinpoche has a lot to comment on that, perhaps. So, but I was very interested in how this all progresses. And what is interesting, too, is in the knower of basis, it's also the path of preparation. So while we're continually meditating on the Four Noble Truths again and again, and these 16 aspects, what is interesting is that we're very subtly building into that and preparing for the union of calm abiding and special insight. We may not be aware of it right away, although probably we are if we're on the Arya path. But part of us may not be totally aware of these things. And so, which brings me to the conclusion of the incredible importance of really working the Four Noble Truths, really working them again and again in all those aspects, and how critical it is. And I remember the Dalai Lama saying this as I reviewed my notes the last few days. I'd had several comments by him throughout the whole 3 weeks of this Lam Rim on the importance of studying the Four Noble Truths. And also what you will find interesting in the knower of basis is that there's all these levels. There's the lesser vehicle, the middling vehicle, and the higher vehicle. And also what I've heard it said again and again, you've got to start at the foundation, and you've got to build up. And the foundation has to be very solid for the higher vehicle to also be solid. So the bodhisattva training on the lesser vehicle has got to be has got to build a confidence, as Rinpoche spoke about, on really knowing that foundation. Then you go to the next one. And it's a study in humility as well. You know, we get in a hurry and we want to do Tantra, and we do go to these teachings, but what I've realized is the importance of really building that foundation. And building it so strong that you're automatically propelled to the next level. It's easy in that way. It becomes effortless with the effort of working the foundation. Now, in Jeffrey Hopkins' book, The Meditation on Emptiness, you'll actually find on pages 292 through 296 the actual way to meditate on the Four Noble Truths. It gives you the way to meditate, the topic, and the questions to ask, so it's a really good resource if you would like to do that. Well, I'm just getting ahead of myself here. Ta-da. So, just in this brief presentation, I know 5, 6, 7 minutes is not long, but for my purposes here, I've made these mental boundaries just to explain for clarity. But actually, there's this ongoing training in the knower of basis, through the knower of paths, through the knower of aspects. It becomes sort of like an interwoven training. So I want to dedicate all the merit we've created here to the enlightenment of all sentient beings. Om Namo Guru Bhya. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I think on the bottom, the teachers that are listed there, I have neglected to mention Yangsi Rinpoche, who I'm very pleased to be with and attend your teachings. Let's see, let me find this. When we talked about the beginning of this period of time together, of how we would present our questions, or make our presentations, I thought to myself, what is it that is really special about this class, and how does it pertain to my life? And I was able to get an email from someone regarding the strings of the violin. I'm actually a violinist, although it doesn't say anything about that up there, in my life, and I've always thought about how is music related with the Dharma, and just how do they interact? How do they relate together in life, in sound, and all those dimensions? And then the answer sort of came to me about my topic, and I'd like to read you just a little bit about that. In the past, Ananda was teaching meditation to Shranakoti. Yet Shranakoti could not generate proper meditation because he was sometimes too tight and sometimes too loose. So he questioned the Buddha, who replied, "Were you skilled at playing the violin when you were a householder?" "Very skilled," Shranakoti replied. "Did the sound of your violin come from very loose strings or from very tight strings?" "Indeed, neither of these were appropriate. The sound came from a moderation of tightness and looseness. Your mind should also be like that." From these words, Shranakoti attained the fruit of the path. Masig Lobdrama has said, hold fast with alertness and relax with looseness. This is the core of the view. Without over-tightening the mind and withdrawing it inward, moderate tightness and looseness. Also, do not be discouraged during long periods of hearing the teaching due to hunger, thirst, or other minor discomforts caused by the wind, sun, rain, and so on. Listen joyfully and with delight, thinking, now I have attained a precious human body. I have met a qualified teacher. What joy to hear his profound instructions. I can hear the teaching now only because I collected merit for countless eons. This occasion is like being able to eat the food of an entire lifetime at one time. Thus, for the sake of the teachings, I will endure whatever discomforts of heat and cold might arise. And now you might ask, how does this relate to the topic that I've chosen? When I was studying over in Europe, I was studying Baroque violin, and the sound of the A over there was 415 hertz per moment. And that is considered a rather loose string, but it's a different kind of violin than our modern day violin, which is usually at A440, which is a little bit more tense. So I actually had my Baroque violin over in Austria and my modern violin. What I found over in Europe was that the sound of A440 over in Europe was maybe 444 or 446, so it was even tighter than the sounds of the orchestra here in the United States at A440. And so how does that relate to our meditation idea here? I think it relates with the idea of the 8 topics of peak training. And the topic that I chose was the peak training of the path of seeing and into the peak training of the path of meditation. So the idea of the looseness or the tightness of the strings in our meditation can actually serve us in session and out of session, I believe. So just to review the 8 topics of peak training, we start with the peak training of heat, which I believe Dreame was speaking about in her presentation, and the peak training of peak, and followed by the training of tolerance, and then supreme mundane quality. And then finally, peak training of the path of seeing. And the definition is the path of seeing, a clear realizer of Mahayana truth abiding in a type of direct antidote to the seeds of the conceptions that are the path of seeing abandonments, and divided into 2, exalted wisdom of meditative equipoise and exalted wisdom of subsequent attainment of the Mahayana path of seeing. Its boundaries exist only on the Mahayana path of seeing. And so, in class, we spoke about our peak training of the path of seeing in the Mahayana path, and it's a place where, seeing emptiness directly, there is a beginning to see without the conceptual. When a person makes or has a direct perception of emptiness, and there is no subject-object, so it's a non-dual experience. So the beginning of the idea of no concept. And then it transforms with compassion into the supreme level. How? By going through the process of meditation, and by wisdom and method, both together. And then at that particular time, one experiences no longer the suffering of suffering, and this would be considered the first bhumi, I believe. I hope that's correct from what I heard in class. And then going on to the meditation level 6, the peak training of the path of meditation, where the 4 types of antidotes for the 4 types of analysis of the path are known as meditation and the peak of meditation, where a Mahayana subsequent clear realizer abiding in a type of direct antidote to the seeds of conceptions that are the path of meditation abandonments. And so they're divided into 9. So I believe it's like the course of the course, the intermediate of the course, and the subtle of the course, and then the course of the intermediate of the intermediate, the subtle of the intermediate, the course of the subtle, the intermediate of the subtle, and finally the subtle of the subtle aspects of meditation. And its boundaries exist only in the Mahayana path of meditation. And so the peak training for the path of seeing, I believe, begins with the first bhumi, and then in the meditation you go from the 2nd to the 7th levels of the grounds or the bhumis. And when you reach the non-interrupted peak training, which is number 7 following meditation, you are entering into the 8th ground of the bhumis. So we went into class, or we discussed in class a little bit about the cessations of the formless realm, the form realm, the desire realm, and going back and forth into absorption and concentration, cessation of all of those, and then how they weave one to the next. Also into the limitless space, and limitless consciousness and limitless space, and into training in flexibility, going in back and forth, and the limitless space with the desire realm, and all the peak trainings, which is a little bit hard to understand. But nonetheless, the idea of the violin string still keeps coming back to me, and the sound of the A415, which I have actually performed concerts in with other instruments tuned in that, and feeling like it's sort of a little bit flat, like a flat tire might be, feeling on the string. And versus in Europe, when we were at A40, 444, A446, which meant you were feeling a little bit uptight, and so the idea of maybe, the A415 would be something that would be like a little bit too lax, and then moving up to A440, where it might be just right to have that experience of meditation that would actually be non-dual, and would bring you to another state of seeing. And then maybe the excitable A446 would be actually too much. So somewhere in that area, one might, in their meditations, be able to actually gain a lot of clarity and move forward in the grounds of the 2nd through the 7th pathways in the meditation stage, after the path of seeing, which would be at the first bhumi. Also, I was looking at the 10 Bodhisattva bhumis, and I thought it was very interesting because we didn't really get into that very much in class, but I thought I would just read them for you, the beginnings up to level 7, which are related to the path of seeing and the path of meditation. So the joyful one is the first ground, and it's like a treasure, one who realizes that one's wishes for oneself and for others can be fulfilled. And then following that, perhaps on the path of meditation, would be the stainless one, where non-virtuous acts are abandoned. And following that, the third one, which would be the illuminating one, where glimpses of enlightenment are gained, like the rising of the sun and burning away many kleshas. The fourth would be the radiant one. The light of one's understanding of shunyata radiates in many directions and can be used in many ways. The fifth, the one difficult to conquer, and where difficult obstacles of meditation are overcome. The sixth, one becoming clearly obvious, understanding samsara nirvana more clear. The one, and number 7, the one which goes far, it moves far away from the Hinayana motivation and is definitely immersed in Mahayana motivation. In 100th part of an instant being the duration of a snap of a fingers, it can move. One is able to enter and rise from the shunyata meditation. And then you go into the next peak level, and it's number 8, Bhumi, which is the unshakable one, becoming steady and unmoved by disturbing prejudices. 9th would be the one having good discrimination, words, their meanings are understood during this stage, and followed by, I guess, number 10 would be the attainment of Buddhahood, the cloud of Dharma, just as the rain falls from a cloud, bringing crops to fruition. One with this attainment is motivated by a cloud of love and mercy to help and teach others by drawing from one's experience. And then moving, from meditation equipoise into post-session with the idea of compassion for all, no matter if you know them or not know them, equal, enemy, friend, stranger, I think is really the ultimate idea of becoming a Buddha. So that was my interest in the path of the seeing and into the path of the meditation. And I still, wonder about the tightness of the violin strings and how it can actually help us move through our lives into a better state and for all of humanity.
Thank you. Sure.
Because I'm a very beginner, this is my first step. In other lives, I believe I studied Buddhism, but I believe it was in the Zen tradition. And with this in mind, as you were speaking, there are only seeds for me. And I am profoundly grateful for that. This is the beginner's non-test, non-exam presentation. And like Nancy's, mine is a response from an emotional aspect rather than an intellectual aspect, since members of this Sangha and you are so much more wise than I. As a teacher, I taught poetry. And this is in the form of E.E. Cummings. And he plays with words. You won't see it up there. It's called Beginner's Breath. In, between breaths, no things, all things. Nowhere, everywhere. Out. Om. Buddha's voice, heart held. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. It means a lot to me. All of you trying to has to take the responsibility and trying to talk about the subject that we study. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you very much. So. Of course, all of this our practice, our efforts, yeah, it definitely will be offerings to our great teachers and gurus. So, as all of you know, the Milarepa mentioned, I have no materials offering that I can offering my practice. So this is all, you're putting your time, all the effort in this kind of busy life, and still you're putting all those effort. It's really very precious. Even there's a way of saying, I mean, not a way of saying, there's a, when the Buddhas, 2005, the years before when Buddha was alive, an individual person, practicing like one day, and comparing today's this kind of like a very time in practicing one instant, the merit and how I say the power is today's these times like instant practice and meditation and study will be much more powerful. It's as like a drop of the water when you are in the middle of the desert. That in the Buddha's time, you are in a tropical place. So therefore, it means very much for all of our teachers. Definitely, it would be how you say offering of spring offering. Okay, so now there's like 20 minutes left. Then also I want to really, dedicate our own efforts for 6 weeks. No, 6 weeks. How many weeks? 6 weeks. All those things. Particularly our guru, of course, for His Holiness, to have a very, very healthy and long life, and we're able to fulfill his all, cause of Tibet, and so on and so forth, and also Lamso Rinpoche's one of them. There's like so many projects that Rinpoche is trying to establish to able to help for sentient being. But in the meantime, one of the main important projects is the Maitreya project, the Maitreya subject that we started. So therefore, I feel like kind of very auspicious that Rinpoche's wish that the Maitreya project that help able to go through very success, and definitely there's a lot of Rinpoche's carrying lots of responsibility. One day I was thinking about that situation when Marpa Vision telling for Milarepa built 9 store, and I was thinking like how Milarepa respond. Did he go all the problems to Marpa, or how to do and how to fundraise? That's kind of how much stress that Milarepa was going to give to Marpa to build this 9 store. So anyway, basically most of Rinpoche students, putting their own time, their efforts, to able to come dream true for Rinpoche's wish. To be able to establish this symbolic for this planet, compassion and love, this statue, to stop the violence and the centuries. This happened, we went through lots of violence. Now time to stop, to symbolize that, and also this love and compassion monument or the statue to establish peace inside and outside. So basically, I'll dedicate for that also. We should dedicate for that also reason. Then most of you know, I'm trying to work for, as a part of my offering for Lama Yeshe and Lamso Rinpoche, which is at the beginning great kind for me. So part of my grown up and to able to service, trying to work for this project, Mitiba Institute, which is which is, how you say, as a vision of that project, of course, we're, to have enlightened practitioners and so on and so forth, but basically for me, in another hand, once you become a practitioner, once you get understanding all those great wisdoms, I want to see the people to put their compassion in action, coming back and, not abandoning the society and come down and come in the society and able to use or able to help by their compassion and their wisdom. So, although, so basically, vision is, to able to really educate, able to build the future generation, to based on a really compassionate and forgiveness. And this kind of Buddhist principle, based on that, they're able to produce not only the practitioners, but able to really, the people who really makes difference in society, such as a politician, such as a business people. So this kind of trying to carry vision as extensive as possible. One thing when you look in history, when in India, and the King Ashoka was while he was ruling the India, the most time of prosperity that on the country in India. That kind of exists in the history. So anyway. So this kind of things, and then after when you look from the history, then there's a Buddha Dharma, wherever Buddha Dharma is established, there's like a, it's part of the nature of the phenomena. Something happens, then change. That can be also be cause. But one another thing I was thinking, like, as a Buddhist, practitioner. I think like not abandoning the society, and really we need to engage in the society and not abandon. How you say? Not causing problem is good, but at the same time, being in the problem and solving the problem can be better. So therefore, this really the vision of this institute. In the future, to be able to do. This the hope. Then of course. As at the beginning, when I went to Rinpoche, trying to present this project and this idea, and which is basically at the meeting, there's a lot of words in the educational words such as accreditation. So he said, like, he said the important thing is we have to have a compassionate person, as a forgiving person who carry those qualities he wants to have happen from those. Educational institute. So to do that, we have to bring our own education and wisdom in the modern mainstream of society. So as we like ancient wisdom to really to how to that can make something different. The problem that we face in modern days. So that reason. To bring that in the mainstream society, so trying to make more accessible for more larger audience. So that is the goal. That's the goal. Then, of course, I'm putting my all, pretty much most of energy and. My friends, they're also putting lots of energy, and just wanted to make a request, make all some of your prayers to really to able to come this, basically it's for the future generation to have a more better understanding, better way to solve the problems of their own personal and also in a community or in a society. So. What's happened? Just to remember, in the first, when I came to Rinpoche, Rinpoche gave me that the Dharma wheel things. So I was thinking like, okay, that I should put in the for memory to put in a logo. That's Rinpoche gave me, so I felt like that should be in there. So the lion, I like lions so much. So trying to look the lion, the African lion, when trying to put in the hand of African lion, the Dharma wheel, kind of like doesn't suit so well. So just put the snow lion. So it looks like a serving. So anyway, later, showing for Rinpoche, and Rinpoche gives some suggestions. So we're trying to make this supposed to be a world, but it looks like world, it looks like an egg. So anyway, symbolic of a world, and to be able to establish, able to turn the wheel of Dharma, to able to carry, that Rinpoche's wish. So some kind of that kind of symbolic. Yeah, so something like that. And if you want to know more about that, you can go in the website. Was it www? Metiba.org. Can you put there? You can't put. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. So thank you very much, all of you. Thank you very much. And before that, we'll do short prayer, 6-syllable Chinese mantra this morning, like around 11 o'clock. Sally's aunt, Paul, Pill Bullet, she's around mid-90s, early 90, and she passed away. And so I want to do, we all together make some prayer and make some wish that able to this journey able to be very peaceful and safe, and able to obtain the precious humanity birth, and able to meet the Mayana guidance, and able to practice thoroughly compassion and enlightened mind, bodhicitta. Through that, able to and generate and take the journey for Bodhisattva Bhumis, and finally able to obtain enlightenment and purpose of benefiting all sentient beings. So we'll do short money Chinese mantra. Chadong Kolun Guben Gabo Don Chendon Gaba Dambu Sanye Don Kangla Kandu Tela Zumba Jenre Sela Chaza Lo Mani Beme O 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 me, Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme, Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme, Om 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 Gyawandi Nyodo Da Chenre Sewan Tunju Nendo Wa Cheyama Te Salang Varjo.
Is it on, Pat? On? No? Can I? Hello?
It's on, go ahead.
It's on? Okay, yeah. Thank you very much, Rinpoche, especially for offering that for my aunt. I really appreciate. My aunt was my mother's sister. My mother was from South Africa, and she met my father during the war in Egypt, and then she came back to New Zealand and only went back to South Africa for a couple of visits. So my aunt was my last sort of remaining relative of that generation. So when I used to speak to her, she'd always say that she wasn't worried about dying, that she'd had a very full and exciting life, and that she had nothing to complain about. She'd really had a very blessed life. So it was kind of nice for me that she felt that way. It's good. So I feel a bit humble standing here to make this short speech after those presentations. It's a bit nerve-wracking. But Rinpoche, I really just wanted to say thank you so much. I mean, it's part of my job as being director to give thank you speeches, but I have to say this one is really myself, and I think everyone here, everyone that Rinpoche has had anything to do with while you've been at Land of Medicine Buddha, this is a really heartfelt thank you, really from the depth of our hearts. It's just been so fantastic having you here, Rinpoche, and thank you so much for accepting Lama Zopa Rinpoche's request to come and teach the basic program. And as you know, I work in the office that's next to the Lama's apartment, and I noticed within a short time of Rinpoche arriving, there's this little joyous, happy, pervasive feeling at the centre. Suddenly sort of descends, but like stardust. And then just observing you, Rinpoche, your daily actions, the things you do, people coming to see you, going for walks, planting the little garden in front. I think Pat took Rinpoche to the mystery spot. We went for a visit to the Gyuto Centre in San Jose one day. Rinpoche taught in GGBC in San Jose. One lady brought her baby for Rinpoche to bless. So many things that we observe, Rinpoche, with your holy qualities benefiting beings here. And I think especially, Rinpoche, just because you're so young, you speak English, you have unbelievable knowledge and depth of your study. Just seeing someone embodying those qualities that we can really relate to is something so special and so unique. and so beneficial for everyone. So just I really wanted to say thank you so much, Rinpoche.
Thank you.
And and also some of us were very lucky to have some of Rinpoche's own cooking of momos, which is very, how you say, passionate. Or in New Zealand would say Rinpoche makes a mean momo. So happily Rinpoche has agreed to come and teach again at LMB. I think we're going to try and... Unfortunately, though I've been trying, Rinpoche hasn't agreed to do the 4-year program here.
Yeah.
I've asked several times, and I will ask again, Rinpoche, if the weather gets too wet in Portland, please come back. No, that's joking, but seriously, Rinpoche, if there's ever any chance or opportunity, I mean, actually, I could read a long list of benefits if Rinpoche did the program here. There's so many things that would support it and be conducive for it, but I don't want to push, so I just leave. So I also just wanted to say a few other thank yous, and Rinpoche, your thank you offering comes with the body, speech and mind offering in a minute. I haven't left you out. But I just want to say thank you especially to Venerable Namdrol. You've been a fantastic supporter in Namdrol, really. All the hours of PowerPoint presentation work and just answering my endless dumb questions about how to look after Rinpoche and do things. So many things. And just, I'm really glad you were able to stay here, much more than I thought you would be able to. It's been very nice. So thank you so much. And then the next important little tiny Singapore person has been Somo. So without Somo, I mean, nothing happens at LMB. Yes. She's this unbelievable little dynamo that the whole spiritual program is Somo's baby, and she does it so well. Thank you, Somo. And she, I could list many qualities. She works so hard, and actually Rinpoche, this was as a little photographic book for Rinpoche to take with him, of some of the photos of Rinpoche at Land of Medicine Buddha, and some thank yous from the staff and the students. But it also comes with another imprint that cannot be seen. This is the imprint of Somo's lack of sleep in here. So I believe she stayed up till 6 o'clock in the morning making that book one night. And then I wanted to thank Thea. Where's Thea gone? Thea. So, yep, Thea deserves a round of applause too. She is a wonderful Lama care person, and she takes care of Rinpoche. She is taking care of Rinpoche, I think, like a mother cares for a baby.
Yeah.
Is that right, Rinpoche? Yeah. All the littlest, smallest details and all the shopping, everything she just does without anyone having to remind or say anything. So thank you so much, Thea. It's really... And then Mr. Pat, our video man. Thank you very much, Mr. Pat. So because of Pat's kindness and patience there, hopefully we'll have a very high quality DVD of all Rinpoche's teachings here. And Rinpoche will be offering you a copy as soon as that's made. So thank you, Pat. And also to the ladies who are on the desk every teaching session. Where have they gone? Hiding behind the back. Rose and Michelle, thank you very much. Yeah. And to Dreamy and Diana for being back up all days. And for Don for putting out the carpets. Every evening before the teachings, I'd be rushing around going, Don? Where's the carpets? Where's the carpets? And then mostly the biggest thanks goes to all the basic program students. Without you, none of this would be happening. And there's a core group, getting a bigger group all the time, who've been through all Venerable George's teachings and Rinpoche's teachings. And it's so nice seeing these students who are really serious. And Rinpoche, I hope it will encourage you to come back to Lanimas and put it to teach as well.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm very impressed today, with all of you giving a presentation. The knowledge that you have, really, really good. I'm really happy.
So Rinpoche, the last thing is we would like to offer you mandala, long mandala.
Mm-hmm.
And with a speech in mind.
Sure.
Thank you.
Rinpoche, Langshu Rinpoche, Mabu Rinpoche, Deje, Gomba Ge Maha Madu Maga Medo, Nangze Deje Mani Madawa Rinpoche, Du Chole Nabanya, Cherry,